Well, David Darby, a former resident of Allen Benedict Court, shared a doctor's letter with our News 19's Alicia Nieves.
He says it highlights just how serious the mold problem was in his building, even back in 2013.
It's been years and years and years of negligence on the behalf of the housing authority.
David Darby lived at the Allen Benedict Court apartments from 2013 to 2018.
Moved in Allen Benedict Court, you're kind of like on your own. It's a risk thing to have lived there. I didn't know it. I needed someplace to live.
He lived in the Y building. In these documents uncovered by our deep dive team, they show Darby filed at least 2 work orders last March. One said he couldn't bathe because the bathtub was in poor condition, and the other said to check his heater for repairs because, quote, he was afraid it may catch fire because of the dust.
And if you turn the light on or attempt to light it with a lighter or a match or something, it would blow up. The hot water heater was nothing but a hotel for rats and roaches.
Those issues aside, Darby says the worst of his problems came in the form of mold and mildew.
Instead of scraping it off the wall on the inner side of the door, it was always under the windows where it would leak under the window. Instead of scraping it all off, they painted over it, and it grows back.
He says his health paid the price.
I've been in the hospital since residing there 15 times. I was telling them the truth. You're being negligent. There's something going on here. Oh, Mr. Darby, our maintenance people will check it out. That was always the story.
News 19 obtained this letter written by Darby's doctor in 2013 addressing the mold in his apartment at Allen Benedict. It says in part, Mr. Darby has a diagnosis of advanced end-stage COPD. He's dependent on supplemental oxygen and he has been hospitalized multiple times for this condition. This condition places him at a higher risk for developing respiratory distress. In this respect, it's important for Mr. Darby to avoid any possible respiratory irritants such as mold. For this reason, I request that Mr. Darby's concerns be investigated as soon as possible and the appropriate action be taken.
They are to blame because my condition worsened by being a resident there. And they knew it because I kept telling them there's something wrong with the apartment.
Darby lives in a new home now under the Columbia Housing Authority. He says conditions are better, and so is his health. And for that, he's grateful.
But I don't know when I'm going to expire. I really don't. Whatever his will is, that's what's going to be done. And God just didn't see fit for me to die like that because to me, that would have been dying like a dog.
Alicia Nieves, News 19, WLTX.
Well, David Darby, if you remember, is actually the cousin of Calvin Witherspoon Jr., who's one of the men who died of carbon monoxide poisoning inside Allen Benedict Court apartments.
We've covered a lot of free ways you can improve your health today, but what happens when your own house is making you sick? Well, you can actually have your home tested for deadly mold spores that may be lurking.
A few of my patients happen to that. If you have any water damage in your house, chances are you have mold.
Yeah, and
somewhere.
Pregnant women especially are trying to get their houses checked for mold because it can affect the pregnancy.
You know, a lot of times you don't know it because somebody has put hammered a nail that's gone into a pipe inadvertently. You have a leak and you don't know it. This way you'd be able to tell if you have a leak and mold.
And mold is not usually visible. In fact, the dangerous kind often isn't. That's why you have to have it tested. And these pieces of mold or these areas of dangerous black mold that you're seeing, they can get into the air of your home. And I want to read some statistics here. 25 million Americans suffer from allergic reactions to molds. They don't even know it. I mentioned 100 million people living in toxic indoor air environments. And scientists have identified 1,000+ types of mold and mildew inside U.S. homes. So why not get tested? You know, I remember back a few years ago when I was sick all the time, and I had temporarily moved into a rental home. Oh, yeah. And the entire time I was there, I had respiratory problems. I moved out, and they improved.
There you go.
And, of course, I didn't test for mold because I wasn't there permanently. But these are things, if you have these unexplained respiratory symptoms whenever you go home, you have to get it tested. And there are many companies that actually do this for free. All you have to do is go to www.moldtestusa.com, and you can find out who does this in your own hometown.
Morgan is struggling to breathe. She's in intensive care and has been battling for her life. This is the 3rd time she's caught pneumonia, but this time she had to be intubated.
All up here. It's all down here. It's all down here.
When was it treated last?
3 months ago.
And it's back as bad as this?
Yes.
And it just keeps getting worse?
It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Her flat is mould and damp ridden. What have they said?
I will just get someone round to mould wash it.
And do they?
They do, but it comes back even worse.
Morgan has an extremely rare genetic condition called Wolfram syndrome. It makes her vulnerable to respiratory illnesses. Just weeks before she was rushed into hospital, her specialist consultant wrote a letter urging the council to find Morgan and her family a new home.
They could have prevented this from happening years ago. And they've done nothing. They got warned about this. They've had hospital letters, they've had everything that they've asked for, and they've done nothing about it.
Epping Forest District Council told Sky News that they were very sorry to hear of Mrs. Sinnott's illness and have repeatedly attended the property to fix issues which have greatly improved the current condition of the property. The council also told us that there is a chronic shortage of social housing here in Epping Forest, with demand far outstripping supply. They are looking at the family's request for a transfer again in view of Morgan's illness, and this will be assessed by an independent medical advisor.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. Well, conditions appear to be worsening at a Pensacola apartment complex that we first told you about 10 days ago. At that time, a bout of heavy rain flooded units inside the Johnson Lakes apartments, ruining carpets and clothes. Tonight, it's overflowing with more problems that are quickly multiplying. WEAR's Yona Gavino joins us live in the studio tonight. And Yona, you've learned that code enforcement is now stepping in on this.
Bob, that's right. County Commissioner Robert Bender is sending code enforcement to the complex tomorrow. He told me his office has gotten about 20 complaints. Today, I spoke to a Marine Corps veteran who said the conditions are taking a toll on his health. These are photos of mold and mildew crawling up walls, even creeping into the AC vent.
I'm starting to get the headaches more frequently.
We first introduced you to Carl Barker 10 days ago. The Marine veteran is fighting what feels like a losing battle against an explosion of mold and mildew.
I feel like I'm giving up, but I can't stay in this because all it's going to do is just make me sicker, mentally and physically.
When we first met him, he showed us a gaping hole in the roof and problems that trickled into his and his neighbors' apartments.
Everything's still wet. You can just about see the mold coming up, starting to grow up the walls. Everything in the dresser and the chest of drawers, I've had to pull out and start washing because all the clothes are molding.
We wanted to ask management why nothing's been fixed, so we went to the office but didn't find anyone. Where is management?
We have no manager right now. She quit last week and we have no management. Corporate was supposed to be here today and of course nobody showed up.
Resident Kelly May showed me this notice of violation from an earlier visit from code enforcement before the storms. It listed 5 violations, including units without central air conditioning and a roof not structurally sound.
I don't have anywhere to go.
She was there when we first met Carl and listened as the owner initially said Carl would be put up in a hotel.
They have not tried to suck out water. They never sent him to a motel. Everything that you heard was not done.
I'm still in my apartment. I haven't been to a hotel yet.
Tonight, Carl remains in a waterlogged apartment, still waiting for answers.
I have a call into my primary care at the VA because I can feel that I'm getting sicker.
Again, code enforcement is expected out at the complex on Tuesday. Commissioner Robert Bender tells me he's also looped in the health department to all of these issues. Live in the studio, Yona Gavino, WEAR News.